Hello.
Hi there.
How are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
All right. I appear to be a giant spaceship.
Yes, a talking giant spaceship.
Talking giant spaceship. Duh. I didn't pull the camera out of the computer.
Hmm.
It's one of those days.
Okay.
I was like, I turned the camera on. Why isn't it working?
So, how's it going?
Oh, not bad. We are experiencing a lot of smoke from the fire in Canada.
Yeah, so I notice Barbara and my daughter Catherine both have very serious asthma, and they've been going around with masks for the last few days and staying in the house and
Yeah.
driving with the car on recycle and so forth and so on. So, yeah, we're very sensitive to smoke.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I was just thinking you leave California to get away from smoke and
well, that was the sort of ironic thing is that last year when we were here in the fall, we were here to get away from the smoke in Northern California, and now we're here. Just a minute, let me shut down the okay, we're at volume control. I'm gonna shut down the system sounds. Okay. All right, can you hear me now?
oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. So this is, I guess this is the last virtual meeting we'll have, and
Yeah.
next two meetings will be at least partially in person.
We are yes, I believe you're right.
I think we're coming up to the end of the virtual period. So, meeting presenter has,
I was sitting out in the park and you could just see how
oh,
hazy it was. So of
yeah,
course
yeah,
I had to take a picture.
yeah,
That's at noon. That was noontime.
yeah,
I was sitting there eating my lunch. I'm like,
yeah. This is actually fairly bad, and it's not that bad for people who don't have other breathing issues, but for somebody with asthma, it's a real problem.
I uh I haven't been out today. I have had no reason to go out today, but yesterday it the smell of it just made me sick.
Yeah,
It wasn't it wasn't anything else. It was I mean I don't know what it was. It was a weird part of the time it smelled like fire, part of the time it smelled like something else. And I just felt nauseous the whole time.
yeah.
So,
Well, breathing problems can manifest themselves in different forms. Nausea is one of them, certainly.
yeah.
So, yeah, my wife and two of my daughters are uh, uh, both all three um, asthmatic, and my understanding is that my father-in-law was an asthmatic, but I never met him, so I don't know. He was gone 5 years before Barbara and I met. So,
Yeah.
but and he complicated it by being a heavy smoker. So, I mean, it's just, um,
Yeah, you can't smoke and be an have asthma.
well, that's
That's asking for trouble.
yeah, and he got it. He died of lung cancer at
Yeah,
age 55. So, um, that's the reason I never met him, because he was,
he
so I
died.
say he'd been gone for 5 years by the time I met Barbara. So
Yeah, he died fairly young.
yeah, based on today's mortality table, very young.
Yeah, yeah.
And Barbara was somewhat convinced that her problem with asthma came from growing up in a cloud of blue smoke. Both her parents smoked, but you know, environmental issues don't translate to genetic genetic issues. So it's either one or the other. You either got the genes, or it's the environment business. So at any rate, but we got it nonetheless, and uh, both of her daughters, which she has two biological daughters, and I have two biological daughters, but they aren't they aren't the same. Okay, my daughter with her has asthma, and her daughter not with me has asthma, and it's a real problem. I mean, basically, they all carry these um,
Oh, inhaler things.
inhaler units,
Yeah.
and when it gets like this, Barbara's using, I don't know about Catherine and Candia, but Barbara's using hers 4 times a day. So, and so we are very, very sensitive to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that's why or one of the reasons why you come back to Ohio all the time. Get away from it.
Well, yeah,
It's following you.
yeah, it's the reality is I enjoy it here, and I enjoy it in California. So having the
Yeah.
luxury of being able to go back and forth a couple of times a year is very nice.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
did not we did not expect this year.
Oh
So
no. No, this is I mean, generally our area isn't great, but generally it's good. I mean,
well, usually what we're dealing with here from a breathing point of view is we get here during a time when there's a lot of pollen in the
pollen.
air.
Yep.
But smoke is very, very unusual unless there's well, in the entire time we've been coming back here, 8, 9 years at this point. We've owned a house for 7 years. When we were coming back here, Catherine and her husband owned their house from, well, it'll be 10 years in December, so 9.5 years. And so we haven't dealt with smoke before. We've dealt with pollen before. And of course, when the trees are in bloom and the flowers are in bloom and all that stuff, of course, you got a lot of pollen, but this is very unusual. Okay, what are we looking at here?
We are
Uh,
the fire and smoke map. And we are definitely red.
yeah,
There's a couple of little spots that are yellow or orange, but we
yeah.
are
Up around Indianapolis, you got some yellow spots.
that
Columbus looks pretty well.
If you look at that, how the smoke is just, we're
Yeah,
pretty much, Ohio is just pretty much covered right now.
yeah. Yep, and the West Coast is relatively green. That's
It's backwards. It's opposite.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's happened in Northern California is where we were getting the smoke from is that all the burnable stuff is burned off over the last couple of years. So there's not much left to burn. So
Yeah, it's got to grow back. Start the cycle all over again.
and to do that, you got to have rain. So although
Yep.
we did have a fair amount of rain this spring, but fortunately, we haven't had a lot of smoke. So, you know, the reality is that air quality is a big issue, particularly for people who have breathing problems.
Yeah. But
So
it's kind of unusual for us, for Ohio, to see all red. I've seen orange before, mostly around the big cities, but it's unusual for us to see more red than anything else.
yeah, just a moment. I'm monitoring. Yes, I'm monitoring my California house. A bunch of city trucks pulled up, and usually that's not good news.
Oops.
Well, they can be there for a variety of reasons, but the biggest one is left now. There's just one sitting in front of our house, and all our neighbors know where we are. So,
Yeah.
but I looked in our backyard, and it isn't anything that's in our backyard. So,
They're not tearing your place apart. That's good.
well, yeah, that's definitely good. From time to time, we have telephone poles and the traditional telephone poles in our area. And from time to time, like the electric company or telephone company or cable company or whoever will show up and pile into our backyard and go up the pole and do something. And
Yeah.
but that doesn't appear to be what's happening today. This is the city, and who knows what they're up to.
Uh,
So,
I don't
uh,
know.
yeah, other than the air quality, how's it doing with you? I don't see James here today.
I I don't know. He sent the meeting notice out
Yeah.
this morning. I got
Well,
it.
apparently the previous week, which he missed, he was traveling to his I guess it was a nephew's
Yeah.
mustering out of the Navy. So
Yeah. I bet he fell asleep or something. Nobody's around to keep him awake.
well, isn't his significant other still there?
Oh, she's there. She's probably working or something. I don't know. I really don't. I'm just
Well,
guessing.
is she retired or is she
She works. She still works.
okay?
Um,
Jim, I assume, is completely retired at this point.
yeah. And he may have just lost track of time. I've showed up at his house before and had him go, "Oh, yeah, it's time to go, isn't it?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll be here, I'm sure, because he sent the meeting notice early, like at 10:30 this morning. So
Okay.
at least I think he's in town.
Yeah, I forgot to send him an email. I have a new series of books I'm working on, ebooks I'm working on, quite good. Jefferson Bass. It's a series co-authored by the guy who has the body farm at the University of Tennessee. This is where they take donated bodies and they put them out in a field in a protected area, obviously, and let them decompose. And then they use the data that they collect from that process to inform them for things like when the cops find a body in the woods and they've got enough data that they can determine how long that body's been there and so forth and so on. So it's actually quite a famous thing. It's part of the anthropology, so-called forensic anthropology department at University of Tennessee.
There, what show was it?
CSI?
I don't think it was CSI. There was a show. Oh, it may have been Criminal Minds, where the real life body farm, like you're talking about, and they found bodies that didn't belong there.
Somebody had been contributing for them.
So
Okay.
of course, the FBI had to get involved because they had to figure out where these bodies came from and
Yeah.
who dumped them. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, that's actually not a horrible plan if you were planning on doing something and you were in that area. Of course, their security and everything, it probably would be a lot harder to do than it was in the movie or in the TV show.
Yeah. Well, the TV shows, they got to knock it off in 30 minutes. And so a lot of corners get cut. But
Yeah.
this is a very, very interesting process because although the particular episodes in the various books are fictional, it's based on technically sound. And the professor at University of Tennessee, who's been running this farm since I think the late 70s, is one of the two co-authors, and the other author is what would you call it? He's just a writer. He's a technical writer, and the two of them have put themselves together. The professor's name is actually Bill Bass, as in the fish, and I forget what the other. They use the pen name of Jefferson Bass, and it's some combination of their two names. The other guy's name is Jefferson something or other.
John Jefferson.
Pardon?
John Jefferson.
John Jefferson, yeah.
I
They're really fascinating books, and
Is it
of course there's always a little fictional hokum in there to jazz up the story, but the whole subject area is really quite interesting, and they've been doing this long enough. I think Bass is in his 90s now, and he probably won't be doing it much longer. But
is it detective fiction, or what kind of fiction is it?
It's just, generally speaking, I would call it, most of them are murder mysteries,
Okay.
because it comes out of, because how the various people get donated and so forth and so on, bodies donated, but I would call it murder mysteries. But the technology is based on
Is yeah, it's
this 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 professor's research, and he, at this point, he has a string of PhD candidates who are doing various experiments and whatnot, and so they're really good reads, and so the writer does a good job, and the professor basically provides all the technical details, and as I say, they've been doing it for years now, so I believe he's in his early 90s. So I've been reading my way through this, and it happens that the Ohio Digital Library has most of his stuff, and I find that fantastically convenient. I can check out a book, I can read the book.
yeah.
If I get tired of it, I can turn it back in early. If I finish it, I turn it back in early, but I don't have to go to the library. I don't have to do any of that, and I don't have to remember when it's due, because it just automatically gets reabsorbed into the system if I forget, and just
Uh,
um
Do you, do you
so,
do you like reading some of the classic stuff, or is it all? Do you prefer the modern work?
well, I read copiously, and I read a lot of stuff.
So
A lot of the classic stuff I have, and they have a good selection of science fiction.
Yeah.
They have classics like Steinbeck and Hemingway and O. Henry, and who's
Have you ever checked out Project Gutenberg?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
I love Project Gutenberg.
But Project Gutenberg, by definition, I think is all over 50 years. I think something like that.
Not all of it. Most of it.
It has to
There,
be off copyright, I think.
yeah, I've read uh copyright law changed in I think the 60s or 70s. And if you had like magazines or something and you didn't state a date in there,
Hmm.
they became public domain because there was no way to prove anything.
Yeah.
So all the stories, and some of those were written in like the 60s. So they haven't, the authors are still alive even. And
Hmm.
a lot of those stories have hit public domain just because they were published
Yeah.
incorrectly.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah. I've read a bunch of Gutenberg stuff, and I've read there are a number of public domain organizations.
yeah,
Um, the older ones, of course, somebody has to digitize them because they were never in electronic format to begin with.
yeah,
Anything has been written in the last 50 years was in electronic format at some point during its publishing history. I mean, today publishers won't accept handwritten or typed. You have to present them an electronic format in order for them to accept it. So
Yep.
I remember there was a movie starring Chevy Chase where he and his wife, I don't remember the name of the movie, but he and his wife, he was a journalist, and he and his wife decided to retire to someplace in upstate New York, and he was going to write the great American novel and so forth and so on. So meanwhile, she writes a bunch of little cutesy novels about the chipmunks she sees and the squirrels she sees and so forth and so on. And she hand writes them and submits them to a publisher. And I thought, oh yeah, BS. I mean, like a publisher's going to accept a handwritten thing. So at any rate, so yeah, I find ebooks just great. And Barbara actually has a Kindle, and I read a lot of Kindle stuff, but I don't have a Kindle. I just read it on my laptop or my desktop or whatever. And anything that's any Kindle book you have or you own or whatever, if you go to read.amazon.com, that shows your entire library of Kindle books. So, and you can actually, as it turns out, with the Ohio Digital Library, you can read them in Kindle format also.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the Kindle is, and the thing that Barbara likes about the Kindle is that you don't have to worry about illumination. It's not a matter of getting someplace where the book is properly illuminated by light, because the book itself is illuminated. You can adjust the illumination. You can adjust the font size, and it's using this e-ink that is really, really sharp and really, really easy to read. And so
yeah,
she likes it. She's on her second one now, courtesy of somebody who stole her first one in the Hartford, Connecticut airport. I don't know what she was thinking about. She apparently left it laying on beside her chair in the airport, went to the ladies' room and came back, and of course it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it was in the early days of the Kindle. So in those days, it turns out they didn't automatically track where all of them were. Now anymore, I think that they automatically track them. So somebody steals it, you can find out exactly where the thing is. But that one, so at any rate, she was very upset about it. And so the first opportunity, I bought her a next one. The first one lasted, I think, 2 or 3 years, something like that. She was visiting a friend in Connecticut and on her way back. And so the one she's got now has managed to not develop legs. And they've gotten fairly inexpensive too, because I'm sure that Amazon subsidizes them because, you know, they sell books. Okay, so
yeah, my first ebook reader, well, actually my first ebook reader was some weird little tiny thing, but my first real ebook reader was a Sony, And
Yeah,
I chose a Sony because it wasn't locked into any ecosystem. I mean, I could get books from wherever I wanted.
yeah.
And I looked at the Kindle. I think that was one of the first years that they had come out, and the Kindle seemed like it was very locked down, and I mean, you had to buy your books from Amazon, and I was like, Amazon doesn't give away too much for free, and blah blah blah.
Well,
So
that's pretty much changed because with the
yeah,
current Kindles, you're going to read PDF and a whole
yes.
bunch of different formats, and
Well, it's what I was going to say. As things have, the industry has kind of changed, and people are like, no, we don't want to be just tied into one thing.
yeah,
So, um,
and
Kindle's not,
the Kindles actually have gotten quite a bit less expensive too.
well, what they have done, at least like the Paperwhite, the Kindle Paperwhite, it's still a premium reader, but they added backlights to it, and they've improved the experience and
Oh
everything.
yeah,
And so, like, my first ebook, my second ebook doesn't have a backlight to it. It is what it
mm.
is. But this new one, because the Kindle has a backlight, this one has a backlight.
Now what brand's that?
This is a Kobo, which is sort of locked into a Kobo ecosystem, but it is more open than,
Well,
like,
now is that the one that Barnes and Noble produces?
no,
What's
no.
the one? Barnes and Noble has one that
They
sounds
they
something like,
they had a Nook.
oh, a Nook, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they still produce that?
I don't think so. Um Kobo, when Sony decided to get out of the ebook game, Kobo bought all their stock. So it's basically a Sony.
Okay.
Um
And that's the e-ink or the what?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically because of how it works, and I can adjust the contrast and do all kinds of funky stuff to it. It's a cheap Paperwhite is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's smaller than the Paperwhite, but
No, Barbara really likes hers because she has a few hundred ebooks at this point in time that she actually owns, and then she's got and then I recently taught her how to read the library books on Kindle,
yeah.
and so
Well,
she can check
Gutenberg
things out.
Gutenberg has started to offer a version for the Kindle. You can download the EPUB 3s and push them to
Oh
your.
yeah, Kindle will do EPUB 3s,
Yep.
does PDFs, it does a whole series of ebook.
Yep. This new one will do EPUB 3,
Mm-hmm.
and I could push it right from the website right to it. But I don't turn the Wi-Fi on for this because I don't find the need to do that.
Yeah,
But
well, she basically turns it on whenever she's got a new book coming up because she's got half a dozen series of authors she follows, and she when there's one she wants to buy and so forth and so on, she turns on the Wi-Fi then, but the rest of the time it's off.
yeah,
I think it affects the battery lifetime. Battery. I think if you have the Wi-Fi turn on, the battery doesn't last quite as long. although it'll last amazingly long. I mean, it's, you
Yeah.
know, if you're just reading uh, without the Wi-Fi, it'll last. I get the impression of several weeks. So,
It will. My Sony. I think the last time I charged it was 6 months ago,
yeah.
maybe, and it's down to one bar. It's got 4 bars on the battery. 1 bar is gone, so
Mm-hmm.
it'll last another 6 months before I have to do anything about it.
Well, it's particularly nice for traveling and that sort of thing, where you don't need a continuous Wi-Fi connection, so forth and so on. Because before ebooks, if you want to take reading material with you, you had a backpack full of books. This is just so much more convenient.
Yeah, yeah. I yeah. I take this one and sit in the car while I was waiting for Thea to get out from school, and just
Mm-hmm.
I could read, couple short stories and be perfectly happy. And there's about 400 and some odd books on here, and it's still got a gig and a half left of space. I could.
Mm-hmm. Well, RAM is so cheap these days that you can put a lot on.
Well, I mean, believe it or not, when I got this 2 gigs of RAM, that was a lot of memory. But they were thinking ahead, and they put an SD card slot on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it will
So,
support 32 gig SD card. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of books.
yeah,
This
that's
one,
that's interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
my new one, um, it's got 16 gigs of RAM, but no SD card.
Ah,
And I
okay.
went, oh, that's kind of a bummer. But with 16 gigs of RAM, I mean, I've got 400 and some odd books on this, and I barely, if I've used a gig, I'd be surprised.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, ebooks are pretty low capacity, or
Yeah,
high capacity in terms of the number of books. I mean, a single book doesn't take a lot of space. So,
I think Sony was so far forward thinking about things. They stuck a SD card slot on there, and then nobody used it, and they went,
yeah.
oh.
Well, it's interesting.
It's a selling point, but it's a selling point that I don't use.
Well, I think that when I first started looking for ebooks, um, this was, I don't know, 2008, something like that. It was a while ago. And I remember going to Borders bookstore.
Mm,
This was before Borders went belly up. Obviously, I went. There was a couple of blocks apart. There was a big Barnes and Noble and a big Borders in Fremont. And so I went to the Barnes and Noble, or wait a minute, no, I went to Borders and I asked him about ebooks. And first of all, the person who I was talking to, who was supposedly the store manager, looked at me like I had asked for, uh, you know, something really exotic. And, I said, I'm sure you guys have one? And she said, yeah, I think we have a Sony someplace back in the storeroom. So she rustled around. She said, no, somebody must have bought it. But it was like, this thing's never going to go anyplace, you know? Well, Borders was the one that was never going to go
Yeah.
anyplace. And so I went over to Barnes and Noble, and they're the ones that had the Nook. And they had them, but nobody knew anything about them. I mean, it was like you went in there and asked them for something really, really, really strange, and nobody knew anything about them. But
Yeah.
but
I
Amazon came along and they figured out the market. I will say this: Bezos or one of his minions is a marketing genius. Okay, I mean, this guy is this guy is just unbelievable in terms of his foresight and insight and so forth and so on, because they have, and then they take it, and they take the model and they expand it into other stuff, so that it's not only books, it's whatever.
yeah.
I mean, who in 2000 they were still essentially a bookstore.
Yeah.
And by 2010, I was buying,
A little bit of everything.
yeah, well, pretty much. And today, my test for if a product exists,
If it's
Amazon's got it. If Amazon doesn't have it, it hasn't been invented yet. So,
well, my test used to always be eBay. If I can't find it on eBay, it
yeah,
it doesn't exist.
that's true. That's
Um,
true.
but so there was, I don't know when I got my first ebook reader. Had to have been early in ebook history. Google says the first ebook reader came out in 2004.
What brand was that?
Um, the Sony Libra or Libra.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The Kindle, I think, didn't come out until 2008 or 2009.
Yeah. And I had to have bought one of the early models. Because I remember telling my dad, I was like, ebooks are the future. He worked at the library at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I said, ebooks are they're going to do away with books. Of course, it's taken them forever, but we're starting to get to that.
Well, I don't know. You say forever, but the reality is it's been less than 20 years, and that's pretty fast. And to give you a benchmark, and that's how long things take. In 1967, I worked at RCA, and I was on a project to develop LCD flat panel um, uh, displays. They weren't just TVs, they were point of purchase displays and so forth and so on. And RCA believed that CRTs were going away.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1967. I was working at Kaiser in 2000 through 2003. And as I was leaving Kaiser in 2003, We're just starting to install flat panel screens. Hey there, how you doing?
He made it.
Woohoo!
Did you forget about us, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walked in and said, "Are you in the meeting?" Oh,
Oh yeah,
I told you. I
yeah.
told you, Art.
yep.
I got a one-track mind. So yeah, yeah. Leroy can tell you about it. You have to watch me going to the meeting, take the right exit. Get to having fun killing Clover, and I forget all about you.
Yeah.
Killing Clover.
Yeah. I got the Clover killer out today. I was hitting it.
Oh, yeah. Ah,
Wow.
why are
What
you
is
blinding me?
There's my new solar-powered flashlight, rechargeable flashlight.
so you leave it out in the sun and it recharges?
Yeah, or you can plug it into the USB. Yeah, this is the solar cell,
That's a good size. Yeah, okay.
but you ain't
That's
got the
pretty
money to buy something like this. This is $20, I'm telling you.
20 bucks.
I know you live in California and all that. Not, yeah, you're rich enough you could definitely live in San Diego, but I don't know.
So you got this in San Diego?
No, that's mail order stuff.
Oh, okay.
Look in the news and there's a link to it.
How how long does the charge last about?
The charge or how long does it stay on before it goes dead? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. That was basically the question.
Let's see. I was looking at the ad earlier. With the low light, 24 hours. With the high light, 20 hours. With the red and blue warning lights, 20 hours. So pretty good.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's built
Uh,
200,000 lumens, which is quite a few lumens.
yeah, you don't want to look directly down the beam, that's for sure.
I do remind you that. Well, let me show you the propaganda.
Well, Vicente is showing up. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Vicente.
Hi.
Buy
you
three,
doing?
get one free.
What's
Yeah,
this?
that's the light.
This is what, eBay?
Yeah. And it's obvious that some of this is propaganda, but because they show two different batteries, they show a 3,000 milliamp hour and a 9,600 milliamp hour. I think maybe that may be fictitious. And the three colored lights, it only comes with a red lens cover. So you got red or white, and then the side lights, the red and the blue flashing lights on the side. It's actually, I'm impressed so far if it lasts. That's the,
Is the battery replaceable?
no,
Okay.
I think it's a poly battery.
Ah, okay. It's pretty impressive, I must say. For 22 bucks, I mean, it's
Steve's here too.
uh,
Oh
I
yeah,
don't, 22 bucks is a pretty good price, I must say.
people dragging in late. I don't know about them. I don't know about
Yeah.
besides the Grand Poobah, of course.
I was going to say
Yeah.
something about a pot calling a calling a kettle black or whatever. Oh, so this is a Franklin ebook. That's the first one?
That was my very first ebook reader. And I guess technically it wasn't an ebook reader. It was a PDA with e-paper display.
That's interesting.
So it was made in I probably grabbed mine in 2002 when they were just getting rid of them. And they would only you had, it was not at all a modern ebook reader. It was a you had the software, you had to drop your file into the software and it would convert it into something that the ebookman could read. But it worked. I mean, it did what it was
So it
supposed
was using
to
a
do.
proprietary format? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the Sony, I think, helped standardize formats a bit. Because the Sony was my second ebook reader. And technically, I guess my first ebook reader. if you go by the fact that the ebookman is classified as a PDA, I guess technically the Sony was my first.
Yeah, I had a couple of PDAs. It's interesting that that whole concept is with smartphones now has gone completely away.
I had
I,
a
wa- I
couple
was,
of, sorry,
Pardon.
I had a couple of handspring visors that were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was fan of Palm Pilot, all of them.
Hang on. I'll show you the ultimate PDA.
Ultimate? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I-
Ultimatum?
Weighs 42 pounds.
Sounds like the Osborne computer.
Had one of those
Let's see.
and a K Pro.
This is the Apple, the
Apple Newton.
Newton.
Oh yeah. But the original Apple Newton was about 50 pounds more than that. My boss and his boss had one of them back in the early 90s.
One of these actually still works.
Well, their claim to fame was that they would interpret handwriting. So you could use a stylus and theoretically it would convert it into print. Emphasis on theoretically.
Actually, you learn to type what it understands, right? Not what really you used to type, to write.
These were, one of these was like the early model. But these were so bad at doing handwriting that I just left my notes as handwritten notes.
Pictures of text.
Yep. Because they were
That's what started that horrible trend.
They were so bad at handwriting. But I think I had a visor at one point, or I know I had a couple of Palm Pilots.
Yeah, I had Palm Pilots.
And the Palm Pilot and the visor were related, weren't they?
I never had a visor, but I had a couple of Palm Pilots.
Yeah, the visor was the same thing, though it did have a slightly faster CPU.
Yeah, the guy who made the visor worked at Palm, I think, and Palm ticked him off, so he went off and did his own thing.
Yeah.
And basically stole a bunch of stuff from Palm. or took stuff with him.
Yeah.
I think the visor had an interesting cartridge mechanism to it that the Palm didn't have.
I had a modem. My first handspring was bought by Miami Systems when I worked for them, and they wanted to make sure that I could get into and deal with issues at work. So yeah, I had an actual modem on mine.
My I had GPS on my Palm 3.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty sure it was the Palm 3. And
So you know where you were.
yeah, it was interesting. It was a big backpack, the thing that clumped onto it.
Hmm.
I ended with the Palm Trio, the phone from Palm
Yeah.
Trio, I think it was Palm Trio.
Yes, I remember those. I remember those. Palm, the handwriting recognition on the Palm was always better, but you had to write it in the way that the Palm wanted to read it.
Was more like gesture recognition than letter recognition. You know, you learn to do the right gesture at the end more than the Palm understand your writing.
Yep.
So, but
Yeah, it reminded me of what's the thing secretaries used to use?
Like steno.
Yeah, it
Like
was like a steno
stenographer.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
which was actually a very specific set of marks that really made different sounds because what they were recording was not text, they were recording sounds.
Oh.
Can't find a good picture of it, but one of the other toys I had was a Sharp Zaris SL 5500. It was kind of cool. It had a little pull-out keyboard on the bottom. You have one? Oh God.
Are you kidding? He's got, if he can find it, he has one of everything was ever made. Oh, yes.
Nice. Is the keyboard still open? Sweet. That was designed at one point to, at some point in the future, be a telephone. If you look on the back of it, the speaker and the microphone are set up so that you can hold it with the screen facing away from you because it was a touch screen and use it as a phone.
That's interesting.
They never got that to work.
This was Linux based.
Yeah.
Man, this thing is awesome. If the battery was good.
Yeah, you can probably replace it. And that used handspring modules.
CF card,
Yep.
SD card. And this was one of the very few things that I ever had a CF Wi-Fi card for. I don't have that anymore. I don't know what happened to that.
I might still have mine.
But
I'll dig around for it.
I had a CF Wi-Fi card that is completely useless today because it wouldn't even connect to anything. But
well, yeah, it would.
it would. It just would be bad about doing it.
I mean, come on, that thing's got 64 megs of RAM. You could fill it up over Wi-Fi in 3 seconds.
Oh. Yeah, this was a neat toy. I don't remember where I got that from.
What was that, about 1998, someplace along in there?
Probably somewhere. Let's Google it. Let's see what. 96. Oh, that's the 70, that's the 5800. So the 5500 would be older, right?
One would think.
They released a PI 4000 in 94, or PL 95 for the 5000.
Yep. This was the SL. I know there were two different models. There was an SL 500 and a 5500.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the difference between the two were.
500. Sorry.
I don't see a date for or an age of it though, or a,
Well, there's Ken coming in.
maybe 2000. I would think 99,
No,
2000. Sharp continued to make advancements in display technology. Then the very next paragraph goes and talks about the SL 5000. I don't really see a date for it.
yeah, I don't either.
The 6000 was 2004.
2002.
2002.
Yeah, down at the bottom, Linux-based SL series. 5000 was in 2001. 5500, codename Kali, in 2002.
I believe that.
Now, who made that?
Sharp.
Yeah,
Sharp.
I
They
had the
really put
printing
a lot
company.
of they put a lot of thought into it too. I mean it's a full Linux machine. Ish.
Yeah. I had the printing company buy me one of those too. Yours doesn't look like it has the speaker on the back.
There's a little hole back there.
Mine, the speaker had a little grill. It was about the size of a dime.
Oh, you must have had something special. I
Huh.
don't have a I don't see a microphone hole either.
Maybe mine was a 5000.
It's a personal mobile tool.
Yeah.
They didn't even call it a PDA at that point. It's
So's a hammer.
A fragile one.
this yeah, the battery might be replaceable. It looks like a
Yeah, it is.
fairly ordinary if I could get it out. Looks like a fairly ordinary cell phone kind of battery. It is apparently expanded to the point where I can't get it out.
It's not corroded or anything, is it?
Doesn't look like it.
Hey, Kenny, what's happening?
Not much.
Did you get rid of your motorcycle?
No. I lowered the price a little. but no takers.
Hmm.
But I haven't got on it either.
So, the,
Not good weather to ride now anyway.
It's raining out there pretty bad right now.
Really?
Yeah. I was grilling some chicken, and all of a sudden the windstorm came up, and I installed a Somerset awning, and it has a kind of like a device that measures for wind. If it gets too windy, it comes and retracts by itself. And by golly, it's the second time it worked. It just, I said, "Yep, storm's coming."
Here is starting to rain.
So you guys are north of me, right?
I live in Mason, okay, Mason Gummy Road. I'm by P&G.
So you're up close to Costco?
No, no, no.
You're not too
Uh,
far from it.
Costco's kind of like Field Zero Road, and it's
Yeah.
kind of there where the Toyota place is.
Yep.
And it's like Target's there, Costco's there, Best Buy is there.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, but I go on Mason Montgomery Road further up past P&G, and the first road past P&G is Socialville and Foster, and I live off of Socialville and Foster.
Yeah, well, we must be going to get it pretty soon because the trees are really whipping around.
Yeah.
So far, we haven't had any rain.
Well, that's
but,
what that's what
tree-
that Somerset awning I got. It has a measuring device. If it gets too windy, it retracts by itself. So it's just kind of like a little safety thing.
So this is a normal anemometer, well, whatever it is.
Right.
One of those little whirligig things, anemometers.
Well, I think it's kind of like it. If the wind goes through this kind of a vortex, okay, it gets and then it hits a pressure, then it kicks it in.
That was the garbage solution.
So
Interesting. Huh.
it was a feature, you paid $250 for. I said, well, okay. In case I get crazy and don't put it in, it does itself. So it
Yeah.
did itself today. So it works. It's the second time it's worked. So yeah, but it's kind of cool. Yeah, I was out there grilling chicken, and all of a sudden the storm came up.
Another way they have of sensing wind, no moving parts, is you have a constant current source pass power through a resistor, and the windier it is, the higher the voltage, because it removes excess heat.
Ah, that's
Okay.
interesting. So it's somewhat temperature dependent, then I would say.
Not really. It's what they use in your car to measure air mass. And so they have a thermistor next to a resistor, and
Mhm.
the thermistor compensates for the temperature. It doesn't take any real processor power or anything. You can do it with an op amp and a couple of trim pots to get everything calibrated.
So it's an analog device as opposed to a digital device.
Yep.
So how would humidity would that affect it?
Yeah, a little probably, because humid air can carry more heat,
Right.
but not a lot.
Well, when it gets pretty hot down in Florida, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, the difficulty with any kind of a tent or cover or whatever is it's amazing how much 10 square feet of canvas picks up in the way of air pressure. I had one of these, the tents that they're like covers you use over a table for, I don't know what they call them, for picnic or whatever.
Yeah.
Umbrella?
and I'm sorry?
Umbrella?
Well, that, except that it has 4 legs on it. And then it's got a,
It's like a tent with no sides,
Yeah.
yeah,
like a
it's an
canopy
open
kind
tent.
of thing.
So at any rate, I set this up on my patio. And I cleverly took some cement blocks and put them on the legs and so forth and so on. I went in the house to do something. I come back out. It's laying against my neighbor's fence, twisted like a pretzel. It just picked that sucker up. Off it went.
You didn't have any cinder blocks holding it down?
Yeah, I had cinder blocks holding it down, but it apparently was enough air pressure that it yanked the. I didn't have them bolted down or anything like that. I just had taken a cinder block and set it on the foot of each. Man, it picked that sucker up and it. I kept thinking I was going to get it repaired, but I started looking at the parts list and how much it would cost and so forth. I could buy a new one for because it was the rigid pieces were gone. I mean, they were just twisted
Well,
like mad.
I was up in Lebanon last week on, I think it was Wednesday, and I was pitching a tent for some people, something similar to what you had there. And I put 4 cinder blocks on each of the legs. Okay. And when the windstorm came through, you could see it, trying to lift it up, but it wasn't sufficient to lift it and move it. So you must have had a real good windstorm there.
Well, I only had 1 cinder block on each leg, so
Yeah, that's all I had. 1 cinder block on each leg, and then the leg had maybe about a 2-inch little foot that you could put it on.
mhm.
So I thought about tying it to it, okay, and see if I could tie it to it. But I said, hey, if it lifts up the cinder block, tying it to it doesn't matter, you know. So, but it did work. I had an umbrella at one time that had like a little skirt on top so the wind could come through it. And I left it out one windstorm. Yeah, went into my neighbor's yard. So, yeah, not so good.
Well, when you think about it, when a sailboat puts out the sails and so forth and so on, it's got a lot of force behind that to move that sailboat.
It does. It does.
Well, have you seen tornadoes pick up houses?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
I've
When
not personally seen them, but I've seen pictures of them.
wind is a powerful force,
Yeah,
Well,
and you
I
put a
was on
big sail behind it, and it's even worse.
I was on the Chesapeake Bay last year, and I went on a sailboat that could hold 40 people, and there's like 10 of us on the boat, and they kind of put out there, and then when they came back, they had the full sails on. That thing moves, and it's tilted, and it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, don't mess with the weather.
Ooh.
The CF card that was in this thing
yeah.
has a date code of 03. So
Okay.
I'd say whatever it was we decided 2002, 2004 is probably right.
Yep. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. So I bought a new SDR for my Raspberry Pi project. Little tiny sucker.
This is current?
Yeah. I just bought it. Well, it showed up yesterday. It's basically an SDR stick about the size of a quarter. Because I decided that I didn't really like having that big long stick sticking off the side of it. You know, anything could mash it. And this stick, you know, is no bigger really than anything else. So the biggest thing that I have found with these weird knockoff STRs, they are way off frequency, like way off. I had to tell it, I think I had to adjust the frequency by 200 megahertz or something.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was way off.
But once you adjust it, how stable is that adjustment? I mean,
We will find out over the next few days.
oh, okay. Because if you simply have to set an offset and it stays stable, then, you know, that's just a matter of tuning it.
Well, all the SDRs, every one of them is a little bit different, but most of them are close enough that you can at least, you know, get in there in the range. Like if you need to listen to the rate of 96.5 or something, and you put it on 95 point, well, if you put it on 95.6 and you don't hear what you're expecting, you just bump it over a little bit and it's there. So it's like
Yeah.
the tuning is very close, but this one, it took me a
Yeah,
while.
a couple of hundred megahertz is quite a bit.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out that was what the problem was, because I was like, why isn't this thing working? So,
That's crazy.
Yep.
yeah,
That's it. That's it. It's roughly an inch square, something like that. Maybe less.
about an inch.
Yeah.
It's a tad bigger than a standard USB A connector that you can't see because everything's too heavy to pick up. It's just it's a tad wider. But I bought it, like I said, I bought it because it was small and I didn't really like, you know, the stick sticks out. I don't have one of the sticks, but the dongle
It's about three
sticks out about,
inches
you know,
long.
that far or so, maybe a little
Yeah.
longer than that. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I figured if I was going to put this in the car, anything could bump against it. So I tried to eliminate.
Okay, Google, turn off sockets.
I tried to eliminate whatever could bump against it. And we will see how well it works. Because I really haven't I've had it sitting here on the desk, adjusting it, trying to get it to work, and I'm like, oh wow, it is way off
The hell is
frequency.
that?
Oh, okay, if we're gonna do this,
Yeah.
doesn't fit over the earphones very well.
I went and bought a hat from American Hat. And when I go out in the sun, I don't want that beating down on me. So yeah. So I'm not a cowboy hat but a golf hat. A sun hat.
Okay. Yeah, my wife's dermatologist said that I should stop wearing baseball caps because it let my ears stick out, and that
Mhm.
the top of the ears were very sensitive. So,
My brother got his nose chopped 2 times that I know of. So yeah. Well, so that's something different.
Yeah.
so what's that behind you, Leroy?
You are an angel.
Oh.
That
Green,
is-
green, green angel.
That is the sting of the greenhorn. It does look like an angel, doesn't it? That is not what I was going for. Batman.
Batman. Did you see Flash?
I saw part of it. I saw the important part.
Okay.
The Michael Keaton. I teared up.
Okay.
It was very emotional.
Okay.
I mean, that sounds weird, but Michael Keaton, he was a very, very good Batman.
Was the first one, right? The
Well,
movie, the big movie
yeah,
of the 1990s,
yeah. Batman 89.
89.
But didn't he also play Beetlejuice?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Before.
he did.
Yeah, he did. And I was down in what do you call it, Universal Studios 2 years ago, and I was walking around and I saw the Blues Brothers thing, and then I saw Beetlejuice,
Okay.
and he was walking around he was pretending to be Beetlejuice.
I read that they are planning a second Beetlejuice 2.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I saw it. Very interesting.
When?
No idea. This is just a plan.
Yeah,
I
he has to agree to it.
I would
He's
watch-
getting he's getting kind of long in the tooth for that, isn't he?
Yeah,
I don't know.
and when I was walking around, hardly anybody realized who he was. They all thought he was a clown. But I
Really?
recognized him for Beetlejuice.
I don't know. He seemed like he was all right as Batman again. I would watch another movie. I would watch a movie if they wanted to bring him back as Batman. The only thing that they did with the Flash was they gave him one line that did not fit, and it was the line that he said, you know, in Vicky Vale's apartment, I think it was Vicky
Oh,
Vale.
I could use that.
And, you know, the let's get nuts line. That doesn't fit with the Flash.
According to Wikipedia, he's 71 years old.
Youngster.
Yeah, well, you know, with enough makeup and so forth, I guess they can get him back to the, what was he supposed to be in Beetlejuice? Maybe 30, 35?
Yeah.
So are they planning on having him reprise the role of Beetlejuice, or?
I imagine because Beetlejuice is full covered with makeup, so
Yeah.
will be easy to make him do it again. They can use a double for fast movements or whatever, anything that means to do heavy body movements.
Yeah.
I saw Guardians of the Galaxy on Tuesday. I got to sleep. It's too long, too much action and no rules at all. You know, they
Yeah.
always find a way to solve an impossible thing. So I don't like that kind of science fiction. You know, that they just create rules while they are while this history is going on. New rules, new stuff, travel in time or whatever. Or will happen something that solve the problem.
That's going to be a common problem now because
Yeah.
every universe they've got
They-
a person that can travel in time.
Yeah. And they kill many heroes. So if they need them back, they need to go back on time
Mm-hmm.
or create replacement. I don't know.
That was
We need Iron Man back.
I think, you know, part of what the Flash movie was doing was setting up. We can't continually use time travel because it causes more problems.
Yeah.
So it might be all right in DC land if they don't use time travel.
I think that use time travel is cheating. You know, you can't do anything. So, okay. So, what's the next robot?
Well, I played around with the grid robot, the gridbot. I was trying to use a color sensor to get it to go around, and it is way unstable. The color sensor senses too much change. So I came to the conclusion that the IR sensors were absolutely 100% the way to go with that. So I played around with that for probably 2 hours yesterday. Just kind of going, part of the problem was every time I would set it back on the map, the numbers would change. I mean, it looked like it was real stable for a little while, and then I pick it up and I reprogram it and I set it back and the number would be completely different.
maybe
Hmm.
change of lighting or your shadow or whatever.
Yeah,
Everything changed.
everything changed. And I could not get it to stabilize on one number. I took, my little grid paper and I just set it right on the same spot each time, and I could not get it to stabilize on a single thing. So I was like, okay, this isn't working. It was an idea, but it's not working.
What color sensor are you using? The one that has four LEDs, square.
Yeah, yes, I think that's the one.
And you are using primary colors or strange colors?
I was trying to get it to go off of the grid. Bye, Kenny.
Bye.
I
Hey, Kenny.
All right.
I was trying to get it to go off of the the grayscale.
okay.
And maybe if I had actual colors, it might actually work better.
Color sensor.
Yep.
It has a LED.
Yes, it's got two lights. You can
Okay,
barely
I
see
see. I
them.
see. Yeah.
There's one there and there's one over here. And
Color sensor. Okay.
it gives it basically gives four different values, and I tried to read it or tried to use it off of each one of the values that it was giving. Gives the R, the G, and the B, and let's see, there's a fourth one.
Combination green.
It's probably a combination.
Blue and yellow or something. RGB. Red and green. I think it's yellow. RG.
Yeah. That's the one I was trying to use. And I was trying to use it with the M5 stack motion, of course, because I like M5 stack stuff.
Of course. You are not sponsored.
I ought to buy shares if they had shares.
Yeah.
But I was using it with this
Mm-hmm.
setup
Motion.
and just a couple of motors to drive it around. So
A dual motor driver or
do I?
four motors or two motors? How?
Two motors. Two. Just a couple basically one of those red, the red Hulu chassis. Yeah. One of those. And I've had it working. I mean, I know that the motors work and the motion, the M5 stack motion, it all works. So it was just trying to get consistent numbers to come off of that color sensor. That was the problem. Oh.
Yeah.
Might
be a problem.
Yeah, I had thought about maybe doing like a rainbow pattern and seeing if that would solve the problem. Because it would be an actual color, not something in the grayscale. But I think I'll run into the same problem. I think lighting
Yeah,
would affect it.
Yeah. You will lose your threshold between colors, maybe a problem.
Yep.
With lighting and shadows.
Other than that, I worked on the SDR a little bit, and I'm going to see about getting over to Ray's and having Ray print, cut me an actual mount for the Raspberry Pi
Okay.
to go in, so I could put it in the car
Mhm.
and leave it in the car. And then I got to order a power supply.
This is a Raspberry 4,
3.
3.
Yeah. So
When they will be shipping raspberries? Because
the Raspberry Pi store says they've got them in stock.
yeah,
How much?
45 pounds, whatever that works out to.
will be 60 or $80. Micro Center news about Raspberry Pi.
They are, when I looked yesterday, they were listed back on the website again.
Okay, we have a
But-
new Arduino also, the R4.
They've got the 0Ws.
Mhm.
They've got the Picos, the Pico Ws, but not the Raspberry Pis. They are listed on the website again though. The Raspberry Pi or Raspberry 4, the 4 gig model is $55 if they had them.
Okay,
And
but this is a new or an old price tag?
I think this is the new.
Yeah.
The Raspberry Pi with 8 gigs is $75 if they had them. And where is the standard 2 gig model? I saw it yesterday. Where'd it go? The 2 gig model was $45 though. When I saw it yesterday. But they don't have any. But they're listed again, so that's encouraging.
Do they have any of the 3Bs left?
Nope. Yeah, the Raspberry Pi 4 2 gig model is $45. So $10 more than what it was a couple years ago, but if they get them back in stock, it'll be worth it.
I think a lot of people are waiting for Raspberry Pis. There are many products based on Raspberry Pis.
Somebody, I'll put a link. There's a
It's a pity it runs Linux.
there's this Quantra mini PC for home and school that's $35.
Hmm.
I put a link in the thing. Biggest problem.
Innovato. This is like an Italian place.
Well, the biggest problem with is it doesn't have Wi-Fi. So when you add the Wi-Fi back to it, you're up to Raspberry Pi prices again.
Well, you
but
can use a you can use a USB dongle for Wi-Fi.
Yep.
It has USB, right?
It's got I think 2 USB ports. This was some sort of TV box that they've repurposed.
Okay.
It doesn't have any GPIO. So they say the person that told me about it, I was talking about the OP25 project, and they told me about this. If you don't need the GPIO, it's got Linux built in. It's running a version of Linux already, and it's $35. So, but I said, after you add up all the stuff, the power cable and everything, you're talking about $55. So,
Mini computer.
but they do tell you how to flash one of the TV boxes, and I'll put a link. So if you can find the TV box cheap, you could do this yourself and turn it into a mini PC. And they actually say that if you're in Europe, it's probably cheaper to buy the mini TV box because it would be expensive to ship these things over to Europe.
Okay.
So, they also said, I read somewhere that there are actually 2 different models of this TV box, and one of them won't work and one of them will. So most people that are selling the TV boxes don't tell you which model you're actually getting. That they will tell you the generic model name, but not the
Not
specific model. So, anyway, it's just something to keep in mind that if you need a little PC, a little mini PC for some project, and you don't need the GPIO, it's cheap enough.
Does it have a camera connector on it?
It's got it's got 2 USB ports,
Oh, okay.
and here, I'll share the screen. They sell, so it's got 2 USB ports, full size HDMI, the power connector, and an Ethernet connector. So if you don't need Wi-Fi, you're golden, you're good to go. There's your first USB and your second USB. And they sell this little kit for $15 with 4 more ports and the Wi-Fi adapter. But when you add $15 to $35, now you're at $50. And
This is available where?
I think they're here in the States, if I remember right.
Any information on what the processor is in that thing?
It's an all-winner. I saw it somewhere.
It should be down in that bottom list. Oh, I saw it. All winner A6, I think.
H6, maybe. Yeah, there it is. All winner H6.
Says it's got Wi-Fi.
I don't know why you need the dongle. No, this
For
is
Bluetooth.
Oh, maybe. But this is that TV box. And I'm guessing that what they've got is just slightly different, but the same.
Okay.
Um,
Can you reflash it?
I read somewhere, probably one of their forum posts, that it's possible, but they only have like Android and whatever Debian based thingamabob they're running. Because I think somebody had asked if you could put Raspberry on it, and they of course said no, because you can't, because the processor's wrong. It's got a different processor.
Yeah.
But this is the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, was it's got a whole suite of ham radio stuff already installed on it. So if you were doing ham radio projects, you wouldn't need to worry too much about it. Yeah, it's an all-winter H6. I don't really think I need another mini computer, but like I said, I'm keeping it in the back of my mind if there's some weird project that I come up with that would actually take advantage of that.
I'm kind of curious. In the picture, it shows a round power connector, but in the ham radio note on HF, the included power adapter can generate noise. So you may want to instead use a different one. Do they have a USB to barrel plug? Yeah, they do. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and they have a phone charger, or how many 5-volt 0.3 amp. Woo! That's powerful. USB
Well,
power adapter.
output at 2 amps. That's the input.
Oh, that's the input. Okay. Oh, yep. I see it. It's upside down. I can't read it.
So that thing's gonna get fairly warm, I would think.
10
No,
watts.
this is switching power 95% less efficiency. So no heat.
Yeah.
So so where does the energy go between the 3 amps in and 2 amps out?
0.3
No,
and
it's
0.3.
AC to DC,
Oh.
and it's 0.3.
Usually,
Mhm.
I think the case is also metal and acts as a heat shield.
Yeah, but 0.3 maybe the maximum.
that's hilarious. Heatsink is included, but a fan is still recommended to help keep the Quadra cool. See our stand accessory with space for a standard 40 by 40 millimeter fan.
Wow.
And that
Okay.
is a 3D printed stand
Yeah.
for $4. It's almost worth paying $4 to not print it for 5 hours.
They have a Raspberry Pi comparing table comparison.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the print, and they print that as 3 pieces and glue it together.
Is that what they're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 things that are a 1/4 inch tall.
Well,
And the fan is raised off of the the table by not much,
Not much.
less than an eighth of an inch, closer to a 16th.
Yeah.
Call it 2 millimeters.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got that OP25 working pretty well on that laptop. I got an old laptop and moved everything off the Raspberry Pi 4 onto the laptop. But, you know, in the car, that's still going to be the thing that I'm going to use. But I'm thinking about going over to Ray's and getting one of those pieces of neoprene or whatever he's got and having it cut to the size so I could drop it into the center console and set this right in there. Probably take this top piece off and screw it into it so that it stays put.
Get a good heat sink on it.
Yeah, I need to put a fan in that center console anyway. So need a big old fan. All the radios that are in it kind of get warm. But we'll see how it goes. I don't think it would be a big problem for Ray to cut 5 minutes worth of cutting on one of his lasers. I was thinking about having a piece of metal cut when he gets the new laser, but I was like, well, you know, a piece of neoprene would work just as well.
Maybe an excuse to try the new machine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He needs a reason to play with his new laser.
Yeah, an excuse.
When's it actually supposed to come in? When are they? Because they've been hung up in customs or something or another for a while, I thought.
I think it just says shipped, and there's no real indicator as to which port it's sitting at or where it actually is.
I think Ray said he expects it before mid-August.
Yeah.
Or expects them. He's getting several.
He's cleaning out his warehouse to make room for him.
I thought he had 2 coming in.
I think he's got 3.
Yeah. 1 big
3.
one and 2 medium.
Yeah. I think he's got 3, and he's got all the robot parts back from Ashland. So if you need robot parts, go see Ray. I definitely think that battery expanded. It doesn't even want to go back in. I found the battery for the Saurus on eBay for $16.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
Though batteries have gotten considerably better since that was made. You could probably open it up, and I suspect it's 3.5 volts. You could probably put a lithium ion in there, and
Actually, believe it or not, it says it's a lithium ion.
really
3.7 volts, 950 milliamps. Milliamp hours. Yeah, it actually says it's a lithium ion. I was surprised too. But when I opened it up and I was Lithium ion? What? Lithium ion from 2004.
Yeah, that was bleeding edge at that point in time.
That whole Zaris was.
Sharp. I mean, before the Zaris line and everything, I mean, they made the programmable calculators in BASIC. You know, the Tandy had some, and Sharp and Casio were leaders in making these handheld PC things that weren't PCs. They and Radio Shack rebranded every one of them they could get their hands on. So the Zaris was cutting edge because it actually was color and had function and a keyboard and was running an actual OS. But Sharp was ahead of the curve many, many years before other things. I'm getting lasagna tonight. I think
Ooh.
Thursdays are turning into lasagna night,
Okay.
especially if I'm at home. Patty made lasagna last Thursday too. So.
Great. I
Did
love
you make it
lasagna.
from scratch or what?
Well, no, we buy noodles and
Well, yeah, but point is, it's not.
no, it's not a pre-made lasagna.
Microwave thing or something.
No, it's a she cooks the noodles and then she puts the sauce in and the cheese and the meat and cooks it in the oven for a little while. And
Great.
Does she use the fast noodles or the regular noodles?
they take about 12 minutes to cook. So,
Well,
Oh,
there's two kinds of lasagna noodles, and one of them is supposed to be faster than the other. I'm not a chef, so
like the oven ready noodle versus the
yeah,
ones that you have to
something
boil.
like that. Yeah,
No, she boils them and then she cooks them in the oven.
yeah.
She does not like the oven ready noodles. So I don't know. I've never had the oven ready noodles because she doesn't like them, so I don't know if I like them or not. So we are live next week, right, Mr. Jim?
Yep.
Live and in living color. So
bring your toys.
maybe we will have some projects and stuff. Maybe we'll actually get something done. So I will see everybody next week.
Sure, I'll be there.
Bye.
Finish it.
Sounds good. So long, folks.
Okay, bye y'all.
Bye. Bye. Bye.